Welcome to Playing Full Out. I'm your host, Augie Bilot, and this is where we explore success, fulfillment, and the power of purpose. Each week, we visit with interesting people who not only make money, but make a difference. This is where we spread the good news about enlightened wealth, that success that serves others. And this week's special guest is Dr. Louise Swartswalter. She is a dear friend and just a brilliant lady. Hi, Louise. How are you?
Hi, Augie. It's so great to be with you today.
Yeah, just so I want to share a little bit, Dr. Louise has been helping transform lives for over 20 years. She's actually impacted the lives of 45,000 clients. Louise is the founder of the Brain Soul Success Academy and the creator of something called the Brain System. It's a 5-step transformational program that she's been using worldwide with clients for a long time. And she enjoys speaking and teaching globally. She's shared with audiences on TV and radio. And one of the most interesting things that I know about you, Louise, is that you use a combination of tools that's actually helped people to move from anxiety to calm in one session.
Yes,
That's like magic.
it is. It is like magic. I even have a magic wand. No.
Well, I can see that,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell us just a little bit, I guess, about the brain system. How does that work and how did that come about?
Yeah. The brain system came about really from my own path. So, just like a lot of healers or people in the natural health world, we end up getting sick and then sort of finding our way. So I crashed when my kids were little and had to get healthy again. So my why really was to be a mom to my children. And I did all the body pieces, just like you do when you're physically. I was like chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, MS. I had lots of labels. Doctors
Mhm.
didn't know what was wrong with me. I just knew that I didn't feel good. I had no energy. And I ended up going to a dentist who took all my mercury fillings out in one day. Now I was born in the 50s, so I grew up on great food, but a lot of sugar.
Mhm.
So I had bad teeth. So when I think back, that's probably, and I crashed though after that, actually. That's when I really crashed. I ended up on oxygen for 3 years and really suffered. I went down to 89 pounds. And again, nobody knew what was wrong with me. So I had to take it into my own hands. So, it was really God and my forward movement, action
Mhm.
steps of what to do. You start with the physical body. So I changed my diet. I exercised. I ate healthy. I took supplements. I found chiropractors to help me. And I still wasn't where I wanted to be.
Mhm.
So then I started looking at the emotional and the mental part of what was going on in my life. And I remember even listening to Oprah Winfrey say, you need to keep a grateful journal. So I started writing 3 things I was grateful for every day and did more of that emotional, spiritual work. And I was better, but I still wasn't where I wanted to be. And so then I got involved in later with naturopathy and got my degree in that, and then biofeedback. And biofeedback and energy work kind of came at a time when I really needed it too, that even elevated my life further and got me back to feeling more like me. And so what my system is I ended up combining all of those tools.
Mhm.
And so I found that we had to work with, and so the brain system is an acronym that stands for the B is body, your body piece, your physical body, how to take care of it, how to eat
Sure.
right, And then R is releasing. And releasing is a big, long sort of module in my academy too. It's 10 or more different releasing techniques where I can take someone from anxiety to calm, like my Vietnam vet guy,
Mhm.
completely in one session was so different, and he keeps getting better and better. So we were able to just release that anxiety. So a lot of releasing techniques where you're releasing the trauma that got stuck in the brain.
Mhm.
Um, and then A is aligning with spirit, because I believe that spirit, God, higher power, whatever that is to each individual is so important for
Oh,
our
absolutely.
lives and healing,
Mhm.
And then I is integrating it all. And so it's integrating your brain frequencies to your soul's true purpose. One of my teachers said that if we are not honoring and using your gifts on this planet, you're dishonoring God.
That's pretty true.
Isn't that true? I was like, oh, that's so awesome. I'm never going to forget that. You know? And then end of the brain system is the new program. And this is a piece that's missing a lot in any kind of transformational work.
Hmm.
It's putting in the way you want to be going forward. And
Right.
it's high-powered energy work that works in the energy field to kind of like, I call it rebooting your
Mhm.
biocomputer. Your energy field is like a computer.
Right.
Your brain is like a computer.
Hmm.
But we have a field or space around your brain. It's not just your head. That space is like your biocomputer. And putting in the new program like takes out the old patterns of even ancestral baggage of fear or whatever, and puts in a new program like I'm upgrading you to Windows 12
Hmm.
or a Mac Pro.
Okay, go with the Mac Pro because
Okay,
they don't
Mac
get they don't get viruses. But no, I think it's a great illustration, and I really like the use of the acronym BRAIN. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
work with a lot of my mastermind clients, and you know, we do a lot of inner game work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's how do I get over my fears? How do I get out of my own way? It's and this is exactly what you're talking about is how you can help people to move from where they are to where they would absolutely love to be if they could simply get out of their own way. And we
Yes.
don't all have the ability to do that on our own. We typically need help. And so I think that's just a wonderful system. Now, kind of in context with that,
Mm-hmm.
when you hear the word success,
Mm-hmm.
what does that conjure up in your mind?
For me, it's going to go back to that system a little bit.
Sure.
Success to me would be being a whole balanced person and allowing yourself to use those gifts in a way where you're helping the world or helping yourself contribute.
Mm-hmm.
So you can feel like you're really a part of this planet, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So success is different for everyone, but it's going to be physical, mental, emotional, spiritual
Sure.
alignment.
Now, how old were you when this all kind of started?
You know, I was in my 30s, so early
So you were a
30s.
young woman.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It took me 16 years to heal.
Yeah,
And I
that's
remember when I was 42, I look back, or 40 something, and I was like, wow, I was sick a quarter of my life. And I was like, no, I kind of said no more. I had the little, the little conversation with God back then.
okay.
You got to help me all the way now because I'm kind of done with this, right? And so that's really what happened. So it took a long time, and really, I don't think that I would be this passionate about helping people at this level
Mm-hmm.
had I not gone through that. So it was definitely a gift.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even have moved from Chicago to New Mexico. I mean, I wouldn't have done all of these things, created the brain system. I would have still been a teacher. I
Mm-hmm.
was a special ed teacher in Illinois with the white picket fence and the 2.1 kids and the puppy dog. You
Yep.
know, that that's
Well, I mean, St. Paul wrote, you know, I take joy in suffering because suffering builds endurance, endurance builds character, and character leads to hope. And, and,
absolutely.
and I think for everyone who's ever been through some sort of serious recovery, because they
Mm-hmm.
really got knocked down, comes out with a totally different level of appreciation than somebody who has kind of just floated along, you know, through their life with no major mishaps and gratitude for people who have recovered from things tends to be much greater than people who just feel, well, what do I have to be thankful for? I'm just regular. It's all good.
Right. Good point.
And you know, and so it's people who recover become empowered, where people who have never really gone through that kind of just feel entitled to what they've got because they don't know what it is to be without it.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, and I believe we all get some kind of test though.
Oh yeah.
So like whether it's an illness, whether it's a bankruptcy,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's divorce, whether it's someone passes that you love, whatever your test is, if you can look at it the way you and I are talking about it,
Sure.
then you can grow from it and understand that it was a stepping stone in your life to do more or to be more or to
Mm-hmm.
become more or whatever that is for you.
Yeah. spinal meningitis right here, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
was
you
a big wake
recovered
up
from that.
call. Do I want to continue trading my life for a corporate paycheck, or do I actually want to make a difference in the world?
Hmm.
And it was one of those crossroads, and
Hmm.
it is fascinating when you come back from those kinds of things. Now, I think from my impression, tenacity is one of the things that was a big factor in you making a successful recovery and going beyond. But what
Hmm.
else, is there something else in there that might be part of your story that, was a factor in helping you to be successful and getting to where you are?
Oh, good question. I like the word tenacity. The word that sits alongside of that for me was I kind of joke about the fact that if I wasn't stubborn and disciplined, which is the tenacity, I don't think that I would have pursued. Really, for me, my first why was just seeing my kids, their little faces, and just wanting to be their mom. you
Mm-hmm.
know so that was really my first why, and so I think that spurred me to move forward to get healthy. And then I said to myself, I want to help more people. How do I do that?
Mm-hmm.
So that was my next prayer, and I kept seeking that answer. And I remember even being really afraid to open my first office and move out of my house. I started my business in my house,
Mm-hmm.
and I took a leap. And the landlord said to me, "You can't afford to do this." And I said, "Watch me." Right? So it's the persistence, it's the
Mm-hmm.
tenacity, it's the passion. If you don't have a passion for something, especially as an entrepreneur, you really have to have a passion to make that business work, because you're going to work hard, you
Oh,
know?
absolutely.
And so that's what I believe, actually is part of my success, is I totally love people. I mean, I always say my motto in my office, or whether it's my coaching business, I say people first, people first. Email's great. It can wait. Hey, we need to order products. Great. Okay, let's get that done. But, if somebody needs help, it's people first.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always been people first, and I've been very good at follow up. I will feel guilty if I don't reconnect. I mean, I now I clear blocks on guilt, but I'm just saying that because it's what spurs me. I mean, I have to do it. It's just a passion.
Sure. Well, but that's I think a response to your previous experience. You don't
Uh,
want to have guilt, and you won't have guilt because you've actually developed a habit. You
yes.
know, um, and so that's kind of where I'd like to kind of move next, because I'm curious as to, you know, what your success habits might be. Some people have a daily ritual, some people have a planning ritual,
Hmm.
some people fly by the seat of their pants and it works for them. Not
Hmm.
sure how that can be, but so how about you? What would you say are your success habits?
I'm very good at, well, one is I'm good at self-care because of my path. So some of my success habits, if I go even back to that brain system, is, I eat healthy foods. I
Mm-hmm.
take my supplements regularly. Um, I do a sauna once a week. So these are body pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I use my own tools on myself always.
You
So
practice
I'm
what you
eating.
teach.
Yeah. I mean, I walk the talk, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I release blocks when they get in the way, and it allows me to keep up leveling. So I can release those blocks in the brain and the soul, and everything will just shift like in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So when we released blocks at one of my events, right after that, two people signed up for my program. So we were in the back closet where all the chairs and the AV equipment is. and and, uh, and Angie and I were releasing stuff. So I use my own tools. So I do a lot of the releasing work. And so my ritual is every morning I do a reading and a prayer, and something called Mind Gems, which is my free gift on my
Mm-hmm.
website. So we'll be
Okay.
sharing that. And it balances the brain. So the little exercises that help balance the brain in the field.
Mm-hmm.
So it helps you stay focused and be clear. So I do those every day, and I do some energy work on myself every day. I almost cannot get in the car without doing those. Like it's on the way to work, I'm doing my spin points. And so I have a ritual that I definitely use daily that I would definitely credit success. That's my
Okay,
success. Yes.
good. Now, as all business owners, we have ebbs and flows in our business, and sometimes we have challenges. And
Mhm.
when you're facing a challenge, what kind of helps to guide you on your path towards success when you're trying to make a tough decision or you've got a challenge? I know you've got an event coming up
Mhm.
in the very near term
Mhm.
in New Mexico.
Yeah, it's in Albuquerque, New Mexico,
Albuquerque.
and it's the last weekend of March, March 27th to the 29th.
Okay. Um, so, this has to have a bunch of challenges associated with it because I do events too, as you know, and putting
Mhm.
on an event is not like hosting a house party this weekend.
Right.
There's
Right.
there's a lot more involved.
Mhm.
So, how do what guides your path to, maintain calm and peace through this kind of a process? Or even if you're dealing with a difficult decision, how do
Mhm.
you manage that process?
So the process again is I use the energy work tools that I teach people, and
Hmm.
so it's codes in the field, and so the codes came from the Bible, from God, and
Hmm.
so they're you're working always on clearing energy and staying de-stressed. So I use those tools,
Hmm.
throughout that process. I also will take an extra adrenal formula. That's the physical body piece, to help
Okay.
with the stress, if
Hmm.
we need to. And then I work on my whole team.
Hmm.
So we as a team work together, clearing energy anytime we need to and up leveling. So we're using those tools all the time. So that's the energy work piece, to
Hmm.
stay focused, to stay balanced, to say, hey, we got to, if we get a hiccup in, like we're mailing books. And so as we're mailing books right now, printing the labels, and just getting all of that done. And sometimes I remember one year we had like 2 books went to some people and some people didn't get a book. So obviously there was things messed up with the labels, those little hiccups happen,
Sure.
you know, and, and so it's just staying present to that and then finding a solution,
Hmm.
and being human. And then of course, Augie, I stay connected. I use prayer,
Hmm.
you know, so
Yeah.
I ask for help when I need it.
Well, that's definitely important. That's probably one of the best lessons I've learned. What
Hmm.
other lessons have you learned along the way? I mean, prayer is obviously a big one for so many of us. And what else have you learned along the way that's proven to be a valuable lesson that you might share?
To stay out of my own way. I believe that sometimes I can be somewhat controlling. As a CEO of a company, we have a lot of responsibilities. We're doing
Hmm.
a lot, and again, it's if I get in that super obsessive kind of place, it feels like I'm pushing. And so for me, getting out of my own way is relaxing and letting go. So it's holding intention and then allowing that to happen.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's, at least maybe for some people that's easy, but for me that's harder to do when I'm in this really frenzied kind of got to get it done kind of place.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation because I know that much of my life is based on being very calm and I'm at peace and I feel great. And then all of a sudden, something snaps.
Mhm.
And I think a key is in being able to recognize that and tap into an anchor that you can go back to reestablish that peaceful state. The
Yes.
state management, I guess, is a really important thing that helps us to preserve our humanity in situations when our humanity is about to go out the window.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I think that's the best way I can describe it because there are times that, I find myself behaving in ways I have no intention to behave like. It's not my desire, and yet I'm reacting to life
Mhm.
as opposed to proacting
Right.
to life.
Right.
And
Yep, staying in proaction is really important. But noticing it, like you said, so as soon as you notice it, so as soon as I notice it, I can use my tools and pull myself back to peace and calm. and de-stress. And I would say that also having people around me that support, like having a great team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do rely on my team, and we support each other. And I think it's kind of like just like a mastermind in a sense that more brains are better than one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having more eyes on something, proofreading, even
Mm-hmm.
things that are going out, all that.
Yeah, self-awareness is such an important thing
Mm-hmm.
that is so easy sometimes to overlook, or we miss it because
Mm-hmm.
we're in the moment, and we got to get out of our head and into living our lives. And,
Yeah, it's that head heart gut relationship.
mm-hmm.
What's super interesting about the brain system is I now have certified coaches who are helping me and who know the system, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and can use this with their clients and build their businesses. Well, I actually never set out. I set out to get people balanced and to de-stress and to have some tools to clear their lives, to be their 100% soul truth.
Mm-hmm.
So to have that authenticity. And yet what I found was when people become that and they are that authentic, so when you talk about those self-realization goals, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that the path that we're on, if we're interested in self-growth, Deanna made 6 figures 2 years in a row, not because she's advertising, not because she did anything business-wise. It's because she became 100% her soul truth.
Mm-hmm.
Julie just made $10,000 in a week. Why? Not because I taught her anything business. It's because she's 100% her soul's truth.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do that personal work and you work on yourself and you clear all of that stuff that doesn't belong to you, the ancestral stuff, the bully in 3rd grade that was mean to you, all the cellular memory bumps that are there, and
Mm-hmm.
you become more aligned and you become you, 100% you, the world is your oyster. Everything changes.
Yeah, it is amazing when you are in the flow, so to speak. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's such an underappreciated term, but we've seen it so many times with athletes, with teams, you know,
Mm-hmm.
when they can do nothing wrong because why? They're in flow. Their energy is flowing exactly the way it's intended with no interruptions, no blockages. I think
Yeah.
most people have experienced that numerous times in their life when they're just having the best day ever. Why
Mm-hmm.
should that day not become their everyday?
Exactly. Oh, I have to tell you a story. So years ago, I had a young man who was a firefighter, and I do some biofeedback in my office. So he's sitting in my chair, and this is when I was using the machine that has wires. So he's got wires hooked up on his wrists and his ankles and around his head, and we're having this conversation, and and he said to me, he said, you know, when I'm fighting a fire, I know that I can line my men up in that home or that building. We're going to stop it. We're going to stop the fire from reaching that building, and it's not going to burn down. I have total confidence in that. I'm in the zone. Then he said to me, he said, can you help me be in the zone with relationships?
Uh-huh.
And I never forgot him. He had a big, long beard, awesome young man, was a brother of another client. And if you're listening, I love you. Please contact me. Because it was just so profound, because he taught me something in that moment about the fact that whether you're an athlete, whether you're a firefighter, whether you're a business person, whether you're, you know, an artist, whatever, when you're in the zone, it doesn't mean you can't apply that to the rest of your life.
Exactly.
You can be in the zone other places too.
Yeah, a lot of it starts with gratitude. Just be grateful for people and things and let them know. And
Let them
that,
know. That's a good point.
yes, let them know.
Let them know. Yes.
I've been guilty for not doing that all
Yeah.
too often. So
Uh,
for anyone I should have thanked and didn't, thank you.
yeah. Beautiful, Augie.
You know, we'll just put that out there. So tell me, Louise, do you have a role model?
A
I
role
think you're a
model.
role model for so
Oh,
many people.
I have several role models, really, if I think back. I mean, I've had some amazing teachers in my life. So in the world of healing, Hannah Kroger, I learned a lot of her work. She was the grandmother of natural health. My teacher, Dorothy Wood Espio, who taught me this energy work. My volleyball coach from high school, Mrs. Voles, I learned a lot from her.
Mm-hmm.
So coaches in my life. Um, I would say that even my mom and dad, I learned a lot from my mom and dad. I had a great childhood, great parents, one brother growing up, and we were close. We were close. And just like anyone else, I would say though, I learned what to do and what not to do. So you learn, a lot. But I would definitely consider them still both heroes in my mind, and taught me a lot about life and living. Yeah,
No, that's great.
yeah.
Uh, if you could push a restart button, what might you do differently?
Wow, good question. Um, I don't think that I'd do anything differently. I'm grateful for the path, even though I've made some, maybe wrong turns, hard decisions, uh, things that maybe didn't work out. I always believe we learn more from our mistakes than we do from our successes.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when my son was, I don't know, in his 20s. He's 30 now, and I don't know what we were talking about, but he said to me, he goes, Mom, let me make my mistakes. Remember, you told me that I was going to learn more from my mistakes than my successes. And I was like, good, okay, I got it. I don't know that I would change anything.
That's great. It's funny you should say that because we had a young man on our Playing Full Out podcast a few episodes back named Josh Culler, and he's a young fellow, still in his 20s. And one of the things that he advocates, because he works with high school kids,
Mm-hmm.
and what he advocates to parents is to let your children fail,
Mm-hmm.
which is anathema to so many parents. I can't do that.
Of course.
However, we don't learn much from success. We don't learn anything if everybody gets a trophy. And
Right.
when we learn that there are consequences to our actions, and many of them can be very favorable consequences when we take the right actions and non-favorable when we take the wrong actions, failure is a great teacher, much better than success.
Absolutely.
And I don't even use the word failure in my vocabulary because I believe that everything is a source of feedback.
Oh, I like the word feedback.
Because failure has such a toxic connotation to it. It's a
Mm-hmm.
label. You're a failure.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're a feedback grabber and hopefully user. Because if we use feedback, when we do it again, we're going to do it differently and likely have a different outcome, hopefully a better outcome.
Yes.
So, we need to be judicious about using words that can become toxic labels and replace them with something that's valuable. And to me, what I learned when something doesn't go the way I was anticipating or planning, I get feedback.
Absolutely.
Like Thomas Edison learned 9,000 ways not to make a light bulb. But in the process, how many other things did he invent? So was he a failure? I think not.
Right.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great point. That's a great point. I like the feedback. I like that word feedback.
Now, what's one thing that people should think about or become more aware of that could help them start moving in their lives in a more positive direction? Now, a lot of people are going to say, hey, my life is positive, so I'm good. But I know a lot of people struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And if there was one place they could begin, just even in themselves, what might be one change most people could make right now that might help them achieve better outcomes, more successful outcomes?
Become aware of your self-talk. So what are you telling yourself? So if you're telling yourself, I remember taking the word can't out of the dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was a special ed teacher, I had, I think, first, second, third grade, and I taught them not to write in the book. And I remember one day taking a dictionary and saying we were crossing out the word can't. And I think I actually took a pencil and wrote in the book. They were shocked, right? It was like, it is that vocabulary. It is what you tell yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So what you believe and conceive, you will achieve.
Very wise words. Very wise words. So I'm curious, how do you play full out? I
I
know
take
that you do,
action
but
step every day. I'm in forward movement or proactive every day. So I have a list, just like we all do,
Mhm.
of things that we want to accomplish. Uh, and I may not get through the list that day, but I'm always moving forward, and crossing off that list. So it's just constant forward movement,
Mhm.
and then belief and faith. Staying in faith. I draw this thing on a piece of paper where at the top I draw faith at the top and fear at the bottom. And then trust at the top and worry at the bottom. And I teach people we can't be halfway. You're either in faith or you're in fear.
Mhm.
Now, it doesn't mean fear isn't a great motivator, and it's definitely an emotion we need to feel at times. We need to
Mhm.
run from the bear, right?
You bet.
And trust and worry. So our goal is to stay more in faith and trust and release the fear and the worry.
Mhm.
And I'm sure it's going to be a different conversation with God, higher power, whatever, for each of us.
Mhm.
But, if I think about people who, whether it's a monk or a priest or a shaman or someone who is very spiritually aligned, they're probably staying in faith and trust more than maybe you and I are. And they've practiced that.
Mhm.
That's the difference.
That was a really powerful word there you used.
Mm-hmm.
Practice. They
Mm-hmm.
actually practice their connection to the things that they want to be connected to.
Yes.
Practicing faith, practicing trust,
Mm-hmm.
practicing gratitude, practicing all of these positive elements that do change our energy level.
Yes.
I know that when I'm in the zone, my energy is like peaking. I mean, I'm just, I don't even know where it comes from.
Yes. Uh-huh.
It's otherworldly. It's like being on drugs without taking any drugs, which is a great way to be. I'd rather be high all the time on life, and I don't need any substitutes to get me there. And the idea of practicing these things that do give you energy or help you to release the energy that you already possess
Mm-hmm.
or connect better to the energy that you already possess. Maybe that's it. Because you use the term blockage, and it's not a term I've always had clarity on. And every time I speak with you, I get just a little bit clearer.
Uh-huh.
And when you block the flow of energy, the energy is already there.
Right.
Lift that little bridge, lift that little dam, that little thing that's in the way, and all of a sudden, you're in the flow, you're in the zone.
Yes. Yes. That's
And
exactly that's a great way to put it. Yeah. It is really that simple. But I think we can make it hard.
that is the human being's job, is to make this magnificent life we've been gifted with as difficult as possible.
Right. Yes.
I
Yeah.
know
So it
I've
is.
been guilty more than a million times, so
Yeah.
that's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been great. Now, one question I always like to ask our guests before we, excuse me, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Uh, One question I always like to ask our guests before we wrap up is, what is the one question that you wanted me to ask that I didn't?
um, good. Oh, I don't know now. Let me think about this. Question I didn't ask.
Or if there's one thing about Dr. Louise Swartswalter that the world needs to know that I was unsuccessful in revealing.
I love you.
Oh, I love you too. And I know you love me.
I love people. I love people. I want people to know that love's the highest vibration on the planet.
Mhm.
And we need to be in that space. and kind of doing the random act of kindness kind of things that we taught in kindergarten. You know, open the
Mm-hmm.
door for somebody, help carry in their, carry in their bag of groceries. Those little random acts of kindness
Mm-hmm.
definitely shows that we're coming from a place of caring and love and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to see those energetic frequencies, if we want to call them that, those vibrations,
Mm-hmm.
um, built up on this planet more, just shared more. That we emulate that for ourselves first, and for our fellow people.
Fascinating. I just had a revelation.
Mm-hmm.
Children are an amazing energy source,
Yes.
and adults and society continue to give blocks to them, diminishing these little balls of energy through
Yes.
control and rules and regulations. Not that we don't need some kind of code of conduct,
Mm-hmm.
but when we deal with children, we should respect what they can become if we don't inhibit their possibilities.
Absolutely. It's allowing that possibility and that flow,
Mm-hmm.
and just being in the wonder. When we're in the wonder, when you're in that wonder and that curiosity, much like a kid, and that creative place that you're in, that's when you're in the flow.
Mm-hmm.
And so yes, we can learn from our children, and yes, as they get older, society sort of creates those masks because they start mimicking and learning from the people in their environment.
Mm-hmm.
They do it when they're little babies too, but it's like then they go to school and then they're exposed to more things, and so now it's about how to be in the world,
Right.
than when they were just in the home and just being around brothers, sisters, mom, dad, grandmas, or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
there is definitely, there's definitely a lot of learning that we can take place. You'll appreciate this. I do before and after pictures when I do my process with people.
Uh-huh.
And when I did this with Jonathan, we did a before picture and an after picture. And when I asked him to send me them, he sent me his kid picture. So I actually have a picture, I can send it to you,
Mm-hmm.
of when, and his kid picture smile looked like the after picture.
Fascinating.
It's like what we did is by releasing all of that, the energy that just was stuck, just in getting back in the flow,
Mm-hmm.
is allowed him to have that same smile again as he did as a kid.
That's awesome.
So,
And it's reconnecting with our inner child.
yeah,
The child
exactly.
never goes away. We just become better iterations, or more mature, potentially, iterations of ourselves. But if we don't lose that inner child, we can stick with that inner child, keep that energy healthy and safe,
Yes.
we're in a good place. Well, Louise, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today, because you are a bundle of light and energy. All
Oh,
good, all positive, and such a great blessing to everyone who gets to connect with you. If people want to find you, what's the best way to find you on the web or whatever?
my website. So my website is www.louiseswartswalter.com. So they can find me there.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a free gift there. I mentioned Mind Gems earlier,
Mm-hmm.
which is 12 little exercises that balance the brain. They take 5 minutes to do. And in about 20 days, you'll change your brain and you'll feel more balanced. Your focus will be better. Sometimes people tell me sleep has improved. So definitely download, and they're right on my homepage. So you'll see Mind Gems on there.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I would encourage you to go get that free gift, because it's free and it's a gift. Think about that just for a minute. Okay? But I do want to thank everybody that's either watching or listening to this podcast. I certainly thank Louise again for sharing her thoughts with us today on success and how to become more successful in your life, not just financially, but across all elements of your life by playing full out. And remember this, always play full out. Thanks for being here, folks. We'll see you again soon.